Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sisu Peak Performance Podcast. Today, we have with us Jonas Fjeldberg. Jonas is a Norwegian professional footballer who plays for Colorado Springs Switchbacks in the USL Championship. After getting drafted by FC Cincinnati back in 2021 in the MLS Super Draft from the University of Dayton, Jonas played for Grand Valley FC and Indy 11 in the USL Championship as well. Before the US, he played in the Norwegian First Division and the Youth 15, 16, 17, and 19 Norwegian national team. Jonas, really excited to have you here. How are you today?
I'm good. I'm excited to be here. Finally, we got to set this up.
Yeah, finally, about
Yeah.
time. I'm glad that I was able to pronounce your last name correctly. Norwegian is a very difficult language to learn, so I'm excited to learn a little bit more about it
Yeah,
today.
man. You did well. You did well.
Awesome. So, what was the name of the team that you played for back in Norway before coming to the US?
Ullensakir Ullkisa for short.
Ursisa. I tried.
Perfect.
I tried. That's all it counts. Yeah. Super excited, Jonas, to have you here to talk about soccer, to get to know you a little bit better. Before we get into how difficult it is sometimes to play professionally and be able to build the right habits that allow you to develop that best version of yourself on the field, I wanted to ask you, for those that don't know you, who is Jonas and how is your story before you came to the US?
Yeah, it was soccer that brought me to the US, and soccer's always been a big part of my life. It's where I've gotten like all my best friends from. It's the environment I've been around. My dad was a coach for a team in the second division when I was young. My mother played soccer, so that obviously led me into that sport. I did skiing growing up as well, but it was never for me. The tight suits were not comfortable enough. Uh, yeah, so played soccer for my dad as a coach growing up, all the way until I signed professionally when I was 15. Didn't really see much of the field for my 3 years playing for that club as a young prospect. And yeah, eventually I got an injury where I broke a bone in my foot, and I had to get that removed, which really did something to my motivation wanting to play for that club. And when Carlos, do you remember Carlos?
I do, yes.
Yeah. Carlos reached out on a Facebook message saying that I can study at the University of Dayton and play for the soccer team. I thought this is an opportunity that sounds really fun right now, and anything really to keep playing soccer because that wasn't really my plan. I got offered a 3-year deal by my old team, and I turned it down and said that I didn't want to play anymore. And then uh, Dayton came with an offer, and yeah, I thought, why not? If it doesn't work out, I'll just leave and never come back after Christmas, you know. But
Right.
yeah, I ended up falling in love with it. Yeah, and soccer brought me to the University of Dayton, and I've been in the U.S. ever since 2017. And yeah, huge fan of it. I'm eternally grateful to the University of Dayton for letting me play soccer as a career now.
That's awesome, man. What an awesome story. Just to give some
Thank you.
context for whoever is listening, Jonas and I played together at the University of Dayton for 3 years, and something that I'm very curious to know a little bit more about Jonas is your decision, the decision that you had to make basically from you were about to stop playing soccer, football forever, right? Because of the injury, because of how difficult that situation was for you. And then all of a sudden, UD comes and they want you here in the US to play for them, come to college. What made you say, okay, I'm gonna give soccer another chance?
It was when I told my dad that I wanted to quit soccer, to see his heartbreak, kind of how disappointed he was. Because I was honest with him. Like I told him, he's obviously been my coach growing up, and I told him that the influence soccer has on like my personal life, and if I'm not doing good, I feel like we are not connecting on a personal level. I told him how like difficult it will be for me to kind of live life without soccer, but I don't want to play anymore. And he was the one that encouraged me to make the step uh, at Dayton and give it another chance. And yeah, he he was the one that pushed me because I really didn't want to do it. But he kind of made that decision for me. And at the time, I was not a big fan of it. But looking back, that guidance that he provided was definitely something that I needed to hear because young Jonas was very over it. But yeah, Dayton was the perfect plan for me to fall back in love with the game. So yeah.
Mhm. That's awesome. How was to have your dad as a coach from that early age? Was he actually coaching you in the team like during those years?
Yeah, it was. All of my friends, my dad has always been their coach, so it's always been a kind of a weird dynamic. Whenever I would bring friends home and stuff, they'd like greet him as hello, coach. Always be a little bit more careful about what they say around me, which I didn't like because I want to be different from my father. I want people to be honest about what they think about training stuff like that. Because if anything, I'll just tell my dad. But it was really tough because he was really hard on me. He made sure that no parents would think that I was being treated with more like treated better.
Hmm.
So he did the complete opposite. So I had to. There was times where like say training got heated, I would like kick away a ball. He would send me home, like, and people would just be like surprised about how harsh he treated me. But it's one of them situations where, as a young kid, you cannot see why he's doing this. You know, you're like, why am I being treated like this? And then life goes on, and you realize that the lessons that you got from that was brilliant. I've, I think the dynamic that now we all kind of make fun of it in my friend group. We
Right.
all kind of like laugh at the time where I got kicked out of training. Like I didn't start games. Like my dad wouldn't talk to me if I had a bad game. Uh, so it's become a joke. And now that I told my dad about how I felt like growing up, he's definitely laughed at it too. And yeah, we're all good now. And yeah, having my dad as a coach was um, cool experience, but not for everyone, I think.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's gotta
Yeah.
be difficult to manage those two relationships, right? Like coach to
Yes.
player and father to son, son to father, player to coach.
Yeah, the soccer really like never leaves the home when that's the situation. So
Right.
a
Yeah.
lot of a silence there on the dinner table after a bad game.
Yeah. What was when you decided to come to the US? Obviously, you knew English, right? Like you knew the language by the time. What was something that scared you, or were you thinking, "Wow, I don't know what's gonna happen over there"? Were you in the US before you got the offer from UD?
No, when I landed in Dayton was the first time I was in the U.S. But obviously English is a big part of our curriculum growing up in school. It's a mandatory class from first to 10th grade. And my dad also happened to be an English teacher after he became a coach. So I got a lot of English like throughout my childhood. So the transition going from Norwegian to English was not hard at all for me. If anything, it was the learning part. You can probably relate. You're reading something in English and you have no idea what you're reading, but you're reading it.
Hmm.
You cannot learn. Yeah, I felt like I couldn't learn anything, even though I'm doing the work. And but that took me about a semester to figure out. Once I got that wake up call from Dennis Courier saying I have to step my game up in school to be eligible.
Right. Yeah.
Then
How was that
yeah.
for you to manage school and playing for the team?
So I mean, in the beginning, when I was a business major, I freshman year is always easy. And then going into my second year, it became a lot. I'm not never been a big school guy. Uh, at least I wasn't. I don't know if I am now. I haven't tried school in 3 years. So, um, but it was tough. And then I had a talk with coach, and when I switched majors, that became a lot easier for me.
Right.
And yeah, the balance between a comm major, which is I don't know if you can even call it school in soccer, was very easy to balance.
Yeah, that's something that I like to a certain point. In the U.S. College system, that you have some time to think about the major that you're gonna do, and even if you don't have the right answer by your freshman or even sophomore year, you still got a chance to change it and go into into your new path. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, talking a little bit about Jonas on the difference between college and being in the professional world, right after college for you. How was that transition for you?
So after I got drafted, I decided to stay my senior year because of COVID. They gave us the option to play our last season. So I came fresh off a season, like I was very fit going into trainings with Cincy. Getting drafted in the late second round, I don't. There was no guarantee to get any type of contract. So I remember the first couple of weeks training with them. It was a little rough. Things were moving a lot faster than what I thought. But as the days went on, I got used to the tempo, and the tempo became automatic. It's natural. You just needed time to adjust, and since it gave me a lot of time to adjust to that, and the more familiar I got with the tempo, the more I could express myself as a player. And they put me in center mid position, which obviously I didn't play in college. I played striker and winger, so that was completely new. But I think a lot of people look at the higher level and think, oh, that's incredibly high. Like it's tough to get there. And it might feel like that in the beginning. But if you train like that every single day and everyone around you is doing the exact same thing, the good players make you a lot better. So you adapt to that. And as soon as you are able to do the basics in that high tempo, high level, then you can start expressing yourself. And I do think that given time, the transition is not as hard. But I don't think a lot of people, college athletes, get the time that they need to actually adapt, and then they can express themselves.
Right. I mean, yeah, I agree. That's one of the biggest challenges in college, especially when you're only playing for 2 months and a half, three at most.
Yeah.
I mean, you gotta be ready. You don't have a lot of time to make those transition. I know what you said about getting used to the rhythm of playing. I think that's something that a lot of players go through, athletes, not only in soccer, but when you make that jump to the next level, you tend to think, okay, maybe these players are already here. They maybe know more than I do. And once you start training with them, you get used to the rhythm. And
Yes.
sometimes it's so hard to prepare for that, right? Because you are not exposed to it. But those moments where you were kind of getting familiar with the environment, with the team, with the dynamics, was there any mental preparation that you went through, or any exercise that you did, anything that was in your mind that could help you reduce that transition time?
So for me, it was I was mentally prepared to not be the guy anymore. Like, obviously, at Dayton, I was captain my last year once you guys got out of there. Um, and a lot of things went through me, say set pieces, team talks, and then going from that to being the last guy who has to stay on the field to pick up balls. You have to be the first guy in, the last guy out. Um, that was something that I was mentally prepared for, so that didn't really hurt me that much. I was writing my master's application throughout my trial there because I did not think that I was going to get signed. Um, so going in with kind of very low expectations was a gift for me because I went in there thinking I'm going to spend my summer on trial, get fit, and then do my 5th year because we got the COVID year. But yeah, I think that transition was made easier by me not being aware of what was going to happen in a way, And I was there 6 weeks. We played a scrimmage at the end of the 6 weeks to open up the new TQL stadium. We just played like what do you call like a squad game? Like we play 11v11, 90
Yep.
minutes. Yeah, and I played played the 8, and played really well. And after that, they said they want to sign me. And yeah, I still haven't finished my matches application, but I'll use it sometime in the future, I'm sure.
Yeah, you still have some. You still have some time then to
I
get
do,
back
yeah.
on. Yeah,
It's in with my empty resume.
there you go. Yeah, no, that's really interesting to you. You've obviously during your career, you have to manage to being able to play in different positions on the field. Is that something that you were very comfortable early on, or is that something that you had to adapt as well?
So all throughout my career, even when I was young, I was rotated a lot through any offensive position, really. No defense. You know how terrible I am at defense.
I can tell. Yeah.
So yeah, yeah. It's shocking. So I would play the 8, like center mid, my whole career, and then as soon as the levels went up, I started playing higher up the pitch, just because of what I can do and what I can't do. So for me, playing that center mid position growing up really helped me to kind of understand the rest of the game because you're kind of involved in everything as that center mid. So the transition to becoming the creative player was easy for me because I happen to be naturally pretty quick, naturally pretty lazy on defense, so it suited me pretty well.
Hmm. Yeah. No, I mean
Yeah,
it's definitely it's difficult sometimes to find that balance between, as you said, what you can do and what you can't do. Being able to play in different positions obviously allows you to it forces you to develop some skills that you didn't have before, and it's that opportunity to get out of your comfort zone, but at the same time remembering the things that you do well and being able to apply it in those positions. Um, so I
yeah,
mean, I think it's definitely a huge advantage that you were exposed to that early on in your career.
yeah. I think so too. Yeah, it was. I think it would have been tougher for me to go to the back to the center mid position if I never had any exposure to it or anything like that. And since he was very patient with me, and obviously I didn't think I would be signed as an 8 to an MLS team, but I was, and yeah, now I'm back in the forward, and I'm very happy with that.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. Um, Tell us a little bit, Jonas, about the time when you go to play with the Norwegian national team. How was to play for your country?
It's obviously a huge honor. It was nerve-wracking the first couple of times because you're just surrounded by incredibly talented players. Some guys that have been are doing amazing now in very good leagues. Uh, but yeah, you get that kind of like second energy when you look down and you see that you're representing something way bigger than yourself. Like you're representing Norway. You know that the people at home are proud. But yeah, it was definitely sometimes where you have a bad camp, say you have a bad couple of games, you feel like you let more people down than just yourself. Yeah, which was tough. I remember I had a very bad camp, and then I was out for the team for a couple of camps, and then I came back and did well. And those things I remember really bothered me because I was always kind of that guy in my team, and the selection was always like, oh, if I wasn't there, huge disappointment. And then I kept not getting selected, and that kind of did something to my own like self image. probably more than it should have. But yeah, huge honor, obviously, to represent your country, and yeah, I would love to do it again someday.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I think that that point that you touch on right there, the self image is definitely huge in the sports psychology world, right? Like how much of that player identity you have. You know, everyone that plays sports, they develop that we develop that player identity, and when it gets challenged, sometimes it's really hard to separate the player from the person, right? We take those problems home. We need to talk about them with someone, whatever is going through our minds,
Yes.
and especially when you're having that huge responsibility of representing your country, right? Like as you said, it's not only about you now. I mean, you're playing for a team, but for the national team, like that's yeah, people are watching, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. People are watching, and to think as a 16-year-old that the world was going to end if you lost the under 16 game seems silly now, but when you're 16, you think that the world, revolves around you. Like it matters so much, but looking back, very grateful for the experiences. But I wish that I would have been nicer to myself when things didn't go as well as I would want them to.
Right, right. Will there be any type of advice or something that besides not being that hard on yourself that you will tell yourself in those moments if could go back?
That everybody has a different path. If you had a bad camp, say you have a bad year of soccer, bad season, uh, things can turn around in one training. Say you have one good training, you get your confidence back, and that can turn your whole career around. And you should never compare yourself to others, be it when you're a young player, because you can end up doing a lot better than the guys who are way ahead of you in the path right now. It's just about um, performing when you have the opportunities, and the opportunities will keep coming. It's not like when you're 16, this is the last chance you have. Well, it might feel like it, but it never is. And the consistent work that you put in is going to matter way more than how many national team caps you have by the time you're 19.
I love that advice, man. I mean, I think for whoever is listening that has someone that is going through that age, especially a coach, a parent, that's some very helpful advice that they can use to teach their kids. I think too sometimes it's so hard for a player to balance thinking short term and long term, especially when those stakes are that high, right? Like we tend to think that that game or that practice session is going to dictate your whole career, while in reality, if that happens, at the beginning of the season, middle of the season, you still have some time. And I mean, even
Yeah,
at
you
those
have
ages, you're
yeah,
16, but you still have some time. And
you do.
it's interesting to see how there are a lot of players that they're playing at a high level, maybe for a professional team, for in those academies, and then they have a bad game, they have a bad week, month, or season, they decide to step away from the game.
Yeah, and I was gonna step away too, but the encouragement from outside factors really kept me going. And yeah, I gave it another chance, and now I live off of it.
Yeah. Did you have
Yeah.
any like friends or teammates that you play with that went through a similar experience?
Yes, I had yeah, kind of a shitty story with it was always the two, me and Marcus. We were always selected on the national team together. We grew up playing since we were 5 years old. Played five-a-side together. And then once the national team's camp started, we were always selected together. It was always the two of us. And then a coach came into our club and gave him zero opportunities. He was performing in training, but never getting the opportunity. I was getting all the opportunities. I was getting call ups for the national team. He didn't. and he faced the challenge. Obviously, completely destroyed his confidence. He decided to eventually step away from the game, but he that was maybe 4 or 5 years later. And yeah, that's probably one of the saddest things I've seen, because he's my best friend. Um, and seeing that like happen, he lived near me, so we would always like go to training together, and I could see how much he dreaded going to training, things like that. And I could see that he stopped doing the extra work, which is like excusable. You're getting screwed over in training pretty much every day. The only guy on the team who's not getting any minutes. Um, so yeah, you can choose to go two ways when that kind of adversity happens to you. I think he chose to keep going, but he just kept getting put in bad situations, and eventually, it got the best of him, and he stepped away from the game. Now he's a very successful banker in Norway, so he's doing really good. He's always been like this really really smart guy, so he was always going to be fine. But I think there are situations where you just can't help it, unfortunately. But that's a very rare case. Yeah, whether you or not you decided to step away from the game, no judgment to you. You do whatever you want, but I do think that not give from my perspective. Obviously, I didn't give up. I would have if it was only up to myself, but outside motivational factors kept me going, and I don't think he had that support system that I had.
Mm-hmm. That's an awesome story. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we can only focus on what we can control, right? And there are some factors that we can control, like getting a new coach that for whatever reason thinks that you shouldn't be playing on that team, or he's gonna go with some other options. But that doesn't mean, even if you have to stay out of the game, I mean, your friend obviously now he's been very successful, and I'm sure all the experiences that he had going through that adversity allow him to develop in the type of professional that he is. And that's a huge topic too, right? Like there are a lot of players that they have to step away of the game for specific reasons, but then they end up having a very successful career in whatever that they do.
Yeah, and you can definitely bring a lot of those, battles that you had into other aspects of your life, and yeah, just it's not the biggest deal in the world if you decide to step away from the game either. It's the same thing with having a bad practice when you're 16. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I mean, we laugh, and I think I'm laughing to hearing that, because it's, for me, I think it took me a lot of time to realize that. At least towards the end of my career, there was a point where I even used to laugh at the mistakes that I had, but not in a way of saying, okay, I don't care about this, but just saying, okay, like, I was getting kind of like separating myself from the situation, right? And I was able to tell myself, okay,
I've heard about this.
I can just learn from it. But it's so hard, because when you're growing up, especially when the sport is so strong in our families, right? Like everything that we do is based on how will we play on the weekend. And if you have a good game, that means that you're gonna have a good plate of food at home. Everyone is gonna be laughing. They're gonna be talking about how good you did. While on the other hand, sometimes, right, like every parent does as best as they can with what they know at the moment. But sometimes that gets you to, no, I wouldn't say like punishment, but you definitely see. I definitely saw personally like that rejection sometimes,
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean it's hard, especially at that time, because you're getting the message of, okay, if you do well, things are gonna go well. if you make mistakes, if things don't, that's it's gonna go bad. While in reality, when you look at every professional in their sports that reach the top, they are making mistakes. They have made mistakes. They have made plenty of mistakes, and that was actually the fact that they were able to face those mistakes and get that as information, not as a justification for how bad they have to feel. they're able to succeed. Like that's the only way. That's the only way. Just
Yeah,
make a mistake, get better.
100%. And the mistakes you do does not define you as a player at all. It's all about the next action. The action you just say you miss a pass, it doesn't mean you're not gonna score on the next possession.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
I love that. I love that next action mentality. That's actually
yeah,
something that I stole from a coach that I had back in 2021 during the summer. He made us do this drill. We were playing some rondos, right?
Dan greased.
Yeah, exactly. So for someone that doesn't know who a rondo is, I'm just gonna try to explain it really quick. But basically, let's say that you're in a group of 10 players and you're in a circle, and two players have to steal the ball. You have to be passing the ball around, and then if one of your teammates steals the ball, then you go in. Um, and he made us go through those rondo drills, and every time that you mess up the ball, you had to scream next action, next action.
Really?
Yeah, and
I like that.
if you couldn't say that, like you have to stay there for 3 or 4 times. Like I don't remember now, but there was a punishment for not doing it.
Wow.
So you had to scream it, right? But what that coach was doing, the first time that I did it, I thought, okay, this is like, why am I doing this? But after you
Yeah.
reflect on it, you realize, okay, what that coach was training right there was that self-talk, right? That reaction when you make a mistake. Instead of getting focusing, oh man, I can't believe I missed this pass or I missed this shot or whatever, your brain just go, okay, what do I need to focus on? That is gonna allow me to get the ball back. That is gonna allow me to bounce back from this mistake.
Yes. Nobody but the opponent is benefiting from you being mad at your own mistake.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, that's so true, so true. Okay, Jonas. So I want to touch a little bit on the journey that you had through injuries. We've had I've had my journey with the injuries as well, but I want to hear it from
Yeah.
your perspective. You've been there with for some of my injuries, so you know how difficult it is, and you've lived it yourself. But what would
Dude.
you say are some of those, difficult things that a player goes through once they experience maybe that first long-term injury?
Yeah, so I'd say my in my professional career, my first big one was when I broke my toe last year. Um, that one was like 3 months maybe. Um, the worst part for me was a change in routine. I'm a huge routine guy. Good habits are created over months, but bad ones are created in a day. Um, so for me, it's about finding a new routine immediately and sticking to it, because obviously the post injury kind of negative self-talk is inevitable, especially when there's the light at the tunnel in the end of the tunnel, but it's right now it's 6 weeks away for me. It's not the worst, but finding like I'm not able to work out as hard. I'm not able to train for 2 hours a day now. So I'm sitting here with less energy, even though I'm not expending as much energy. I come home from training and I feel like as a soccer player, not even able to do that. It's pretty tough to find a purpose. So how I do it, unfortunately, I've become used to being injured now, is that I write a checklist of things that I want to have done by the end of each day, and I say I have to do 3 out of 4, and that's been a good day. Those things are, bed by 9 o'clock, active recovery, uh, and journal or pray, something like this. Uh, the fourth one is over there. I don't remember what it was. Yeah, it's on my first thing I see when I wake up.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, so things like that. Trying to go to bed every night feeling like you accomplished something. Because usually that feeling would be, oh, I did well in training, or oh, I'm tired from training. But now I'm not able to even like bike in training. So my pulse is pretty much low throughout the whole day, especially in the starting phase of this injury. So yeah, finding a new routine, something that will leave you satisfied at the end of the day, not have your mind go everywhere when you put your head on your pillow, because that's how it was before. Um, But yeah, kind of not attributing all your happiness to your performance in training is like super important. Yeah, so that's how I cope with that, is kind of finding new ways to feel satisfied at the end of the day, feel like what I did was purposeful, and feel like I made some sort of progress or contribution towards my career.
I think those are great strategies to use, especially during that time. I know you mentioned the journaling, right? Is there like a specific process that you have about journaling? Like there are like some questions that you ask yourself, or you do it for a specific amount of time?
No, when I journal, I just make sure that it's genuine. The things I write down could be like embarrassing if other people got their hands on it. So that's kind of the point of journaling, getting like the thoughts that are bothering you out on paper.
Yep.
So I keep that journal hidden away from any of my friends. Uh, but yeah, I always make sure to write at the end of the journal how I'm feeling about the day that I just had, whether that be I feel awful about today, I will write I feel awful about today. If I feel amazing, I feel amazing. Um, so yeah, I'll go through what I did throughout the day. I'll mention individuals. I'll mention how I feel about the individuals. Mention how I want to say go forward with these individuals.
Mhm.
Things like that, just to kind of get all the thoughts that are bothering me on paper. Because I find that when I put the journal away, most of the times those thoughts go away with the journal. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
This quote now came to my mind. Is from Alfred Whitehead, who was a famous mathematician and physician. He said, "The purpose of thinking is to let our thoughts die instead of ourselves." I think that explains perfectly
Yeah.
what you do with journaling. Not everything that we think, not everything that we have has to turn into reality, right? At the end of the day, those thoughts that we have
Yeah.
are information, and the way that you go about journaling tells me that you are getting away from those thoughts, which I think it's awesome, because sometimes if we just keep those negative thoughts to ourselves all the time, we tend to feel a little bit, frustrated. We might feel a little bit anxious about whatever we're going through in that moment. But writing it now, put it somewhere else where you can see it, where you can create some distance. That definitely helps a lot to that mental, emotional state.
It really does. And when you write it down and you look back 10 out of 10 times, the struggles that you were having, it's not a struggle anymore.
Mm.
So yeah, it's always encouraging to see that the stuff that you were dealing with has now faded. You might be dealing with new shit, but it's still, you guys still got rid of those old problems.
Yeah, I love that. Has it ever happened to you looking back at something that you journal, I don't know, like months ago or a year ago, and you kind of think, oh wow, this problem that I had at the time means nothing right now.
Yeah, it means zero things. When I read back from the journal from when I was healthy, like uh, a problem that I would have is I didn't have a good training right now, but right now that I'm injured, all I want to do is being able to walk and be able to train. So you reflect back and you're like, damn, I should have been grateful for what I had. What I thought was the end of the world back then is nothing right now. And yeah, obviously there's going to be issues arising everywhere, but getting to put those behind you has just been huge. And that's why journaling has helped me so much.
100%, man. I think that's something that once you're back on the field, you start seeing, you have more perspective as far as what used to, bother you or upset you, because that exercise that you do with the journaling, now it turns into that grateful moment. So when you are facing those bad days, you think, okay, I'm not that bad. Today is not such a
Yeah,
bad day as it used to be
it's not the
before.
worst thing in the world, man. Yeah.
So at least, I mean, now you get to play, which is the thing that you wanted before. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
like today I'll put I had a shit podcast, but tomorrow will be better.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean that's something that I keep telling myself.
Yeah.
It's gonna be, but I mean,
We try again tomorrow. We try
yeah,
again tomorrow.
exactly. That's the journey. I mean, at the end of the day, you can have good intentions about something if you want to get better at something, right? In sports, in life, when you're trying to learn a new skill, whatever is gonna stop you is what you tell yourself, the story that you tell yourself in those moments.
Yeah.
I had a team session a couple of months ago, and I was actually teaching the guys how to jog with the ball, right? Um, so they were playing. This team is from a different sport, from soccer, but I was teaching them how to jog with the ball. And I asked for a volunteer. He came out, and he's never jogged in his life, right? With the ball, this guy's 22 years old. So he starts doing it, and as soon as he misses, like the whole team starts laughing. I'm like, hey man, it's okay, let's just keep going. And he gave me like that face of, I'm not gonna make it. Just tell me to sit down so I can get away from this.
Yeah.
And I forced him. I told him like, hey, it's fine. Like, we're here to learn. So after 5 minutes or something, he was able to jog for like six touches, right? That's like 5 seconds. But obviously it was better, right? Than when he started. And then we had the discussion on how, I asked him, okay, what do you think was getting you away for keep trying? And he was honest about it. He was like, well, obviously, everyone is looking, and I don't want to look bad. And I understand, like, that's something that we all go through when we're facing something that we are trying to learn or we're getting out of our comfort zone. But the point is, if you let, in this case, those people, those comments, or even the interpretation that you have about yourself of, okay, today I'm really bad at this. Just the fact that you say I'm really bad at this is priming your mind to think on all the reasons for you not to try it again.
Yes.
And it is a crazy idea, but let's say, you want to learn to play the guitar. Again, just, get the guitar and get going. It's going to take time. No one says that it's easy, but that's what I think we sometimes we forget is. So yeah, it's interesting to see how much the way that we talk to ourselves influence how we feel and the actions that we take, especially when we get out of our comfort zone.
100%. And I think that kind of ties into the transition period between college and MLS. How you need the time. It's just about trusting that it will take time, but you'll eventually get there. And the learning curve for me was like this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it goes
steady
very
and high,
slow, and
yep.
all of us, steady and high, and then keeping motivation through the times where progress is not really happening. It's happening, but you don't see it happening. Is a tough part, and believing that you'll be rewarded in the future is it's so important. Even though it might not look like it, it's huge, because if you're consistent, it'll happen.
Mm-hmm. It definitely is, and I think we sometimes forget how much. There was this quote that said, I forgot who said it, but it goes, we overestimate what we can do in a day, and we underestimate what we can do in a year. Like that training session, again, or that exercise, that drill that you do, it might not mean a lot in that moment, and you think, okay, because I'm not successful right now, I'm never gonna be. Like, your mind sometimes goes there. But imagine if you could manage that and train that every single day, a couple of times. I'm not saying that you will, make it to pro, because there is no proven science that something like that works, but it's definitely going to increase the probability of that happening.
Yeah, it will, and it'll definitely create opportunities.
Mm-hmm. And actually thinking about that, something I want to hear your thoughts on this, but one of the things that I think it takes time to realize when you go through the journey of playing in college, playing professional sports, is that it doesn't matter sometimes how much you do. If it doesn't happen to you, it's not gonna happen, and that's okay. I think sometimes we get so caught up into okay, if I do this work, this is the result that I'm gonna get. And sometimes it is that way. But at the end of the day, you can have the best training session. You can have the best game, right? You score 2 goals, you score 3 goals, and then the other team beats you. You did everything right during that game, but still things don't work out for you. What do you do then?
It's a really tough question. I'd like to bring up an example of a player on our team this year, Tyreek McGee. He's a Jamaican player who played professional in Belgium before he came here, and I've always thought he was one of the best players in training. Really, like, unbelievably skillful, quick, very sharp on the ball. He didn't play at all for the first 75% of the season. Did not see the field, and he was, he showed up to training, never complaining, never anything like that. And it was just very, very sad to see that he was not being utilized, because we all knew how good he was, but there was something that was happening that we didn't know, and he was just not playing. And now the last quarter of the season, he's starting every single game. He's scoring, he's assisting, and he just got called up to the Jamaican national team in soccer from not making the squad in the switchbacks USL Championship to now playing World Cup qualifiers with Jamaica. I think they played today, actually. It's just everybody's journey is completely different. You never know when things can turn around for you. And a story like that is just kind of a testimony to what we're saying about staying consistent. And the path that you're on, you have no idea where it's going. So yeah, it's really just about staying consistent, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, 100%. I think that's a perfect story, man, of what we're talking about on being consistent and being okay with just taking it day by day. Sometimes that's all you can do. I mean, relating it to the example that you gave when you're going through that injury, right? Like having those goals that you can accomplish each day to keep your motivation high. If when you're injured, you're trying to assess your day or you evaluate your day based on the fact that you are playing or not, that's going to be a long recovery for you, man. It's going to feel like a long, long time. But in those moments, if you're able to identify what you can control, like your friend right there, you get to have that, something that they can take away that from you. Like no coach, no outcome, like no one can take away from you. How you come to the training session, your attitude, if you're willing to give your 100%, and at the end of the day, he got the result. So yeah, it's about being consistent.
He just made it inevitable for the coaches to not. You have to start him. He's that good now. Mm-hmm. Like, he's doing all the work. There's zero reason why he shouldn't be playing every minute for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there is this ex-Navy SEAL. His name is David Goggins. Have you heard about him?
Yeah.
Of course.
Is he the next guest? Is he the next guest?
Hopefully he comes here, and I would love to bring him to the podcast. But obviously, he's someone that I follow. He tunes into the whole mental training world, and his story is amazing. But one of the stories that he talks about in one of his books that I remember, that is connected to focusing on the things that you can control, is that when he was going through that Hell Week in preparation for the Navy SEALs training, they have to do this proof or this test where they're in a team and they have to carry the boats, right? They have to carry the boats into the water and out of the water for hours without stop. So there was this moment when they were coming out and he was watching all the supervisors that were there, and they were all having like a coffee, they were eating, they were making some jokes, because the whole point of this training is to see how mentally tough you are, right? If you can take it or not. And one of the times that he's coming out, he's thinking that, and he says in the book, when I saw that guy's face and how much fun he was trying to make of us and how much he was laughing, all I could think of is that I wanted to kill him, but also I had to find a way to steal his soul. So instead of, bringing his shoulders down and just give up, he said, I'm going to steal his soul. So he started pushing his teammates. He started screaming. They started singing while he was coming in and out of the water. Now he left the supervisors speechless, right? And that was all. Again, that was a decision that he decided to make. Obviously, it's easier said than done. It's easier to read it, and it's very difficult to do it.
Yeah.
But the point is, again, your that next action mentality, that attitude, those moments, they can take away that from you, no matter what.
Yeah. Yeah. I David Goggins is an unbelievable guy. And every time I come across like a clip or something of him, I just enjoy it so much because it's always so extreme. Always so crazy.
Yeah.
Running 200 miles. This is mile 150. It's like 4 a.m. in the morning, and his wife is like recording him.
Yeah.
Yeah, this guy is unbelievable.
Yeah.
He goes to extremes, but I think there's a lot of stuff to learn from him.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, he's definitely one of a kind. I mean, I don't know how many people could go through what he did, but he definitely has a lot of teaching moments. In those books, or even in those videos, in those Instagram videos, there are these times when I'm sitting on the couch. He comes out for those 10 seconds, basically saying, like, get away from the couch. What are you doing? What are you doing? I'm like, I'm jumping out of the couch. Like, okay, I gotta do something. I gotta do jumping jacks, push-ups, something. I gotta get moving.
It depends on what I've done that day. If I see him and I have no plans of getting anything accomplished, because those days are important too.
Mm-hmm.
Do it like just being lazy, being able to. For me, I have to do nothing one time a week to be able to do anything throughout the week.
Right.
It's like a little treat. Yeah.
Yeah. Take us through one of your days off. What do you do?
So days off, usually it's the Sunday after a game. Usually I've had terrible sleep because I can't sleep after games. So running on like my Whoop is saying 50% sleep, 3% recovery. So the first thing I do is decide whether or not I'm gonna go to First Watch and get food or order it to my place. Depends on how lazy I am. But always I need to have a big breakfast because I'm starving. I'm not a big eater after games either. So usually I'm very sore just because my stomach is very upset. So I'll be up all night in the bathroom if I eat like a ton of food after a game. So for me, it's just about getting a big breakfast and then getting going with my day. Like I don't want to touch the couch because I need to get my legs going. So I'll go fishing. I'll go hiking, something like this. Getting the sun in my face, just to not feel useless. And then that Sunday lead into a big coming from fishing, big dinner, and then the following Monday is where I'll couch it all day.
Right. There you go. Yeah, I mean, it's
all day. Yeah. If I want to eat something, I eat it. And then I wake up on Tuesday ready for training with a bunch of excess calories in my body, ready to work. And motivation is tip top to now take care of my body after not doing it yesterday.
Right. I mean, it's definitely important to find, the routine or the day of that works for you. Obviously, if you've been now with all the experience that you had during your journey, right? It seems like you figured it out what works for you during those days.
I have figured it out. It's all about balance, man.
Yeah.
You gotta, but for me, in order to have the motivation to do something, I have to do nothing for a little bit.
That's awesome. Yeah. One of the questions, Jonas, that I have for every guest that I bring to the podcast, we talk about different topics here, right? We talk about strength and conditioning, nutrition, mental performance, psychology. We hear stories on how challenging professional sports are and sports in general. And one of the most powerful tools that we have to reflect on the performance that we have, on how we can get better at something, is to be able to look back, right? Go through that self-reflection process. There are some players that might be listening during those that are very young, right? If you could go back and talk to your past self, what would be two pieces of advice that you will give yourself?
I would say pretty simple. That it's not that deep. It doesn't really, like we were talking about earlier. The mistakes you make as a young football player, it doesn't matter. The most important thing is that you can recognize them and try to work on them. But making mistakes is inevitable, and yeah, it's just how about how you respond to those mistakes, because the mistakes are gonna happen. So definitely that. A second one would be that things are not gonna go to plan, but
Right.
it'll still work out. Yeah. Things will. If you told me about my journey, I would say you're an idiot. Like, there's no chance this is gonna be my life. But now things have happened the way they've happened, and it's just been an unbelievable journey. And who would have thought 7 years ago that I'd be in the position that I am right now? Yeah,
Oh
that would
yeah.
be my two.
Two right there. That's awesome. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
there you
I
go.
love those, man. I love those. I'm taking some notes after
Appreciate
after we're done
it.
here.
You're not young though.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you're an old guy.
Yeah.
You're done.
Yeah, Jonas. Yeah, we're close to an hour now. It's been awesome to have you here, share this time with you, learning a little bit more about you, your journey in the States. I think you're giving some tremendous advice for players, coaches, parents as well. And yeah,
Yeah.
really happy to have you here today, and I hope you have a great rest of your season.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. It's been awesome.
Awesome, Jonas. All right, take care.
Yeah.